All right, we've arrived at 3:30, and I'll call the Bethlehem Revitalization and Improvement Authority meeting to order for September 16th, 2021. Roll call.
Mr. Jobs is absent.
Here.
Nope. Sorry. Ms. McHale is absent. Ms. Taggart.
Here.
Mr. Philippos.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Andres.
Here.
Ms. Carter.
Here.
All right, first up is public comment for anything we're voting on today. I don't see any members of the public. Is there anybody?
No, we're all in person.
It's all in
except for
person.
board
Okay,
members. Yep.
that's fine. All right, then seeing no public comment, I'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the April 15th, 2021 meeting. Any questions or concerns? I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
I'll second. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Moving on to the treasurer's report.
Yeah, give me a minute. Okay, you guys had the treasurer's report. I just want to point out a couple things. You see revenue coming in for an application fee and closing fees, and that's from the Wilbur Mansion project. And then the service fee is from Bethworks project. And then our expenses are just have to do with our compliance with the state and our audit, which we got a good opinion about, clean opinion. So I move that we accept the treasurer's report as filed.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. Old business? I don't think we have any old business, do we, Alicia?
No.
All right, new business. The first order of business is the certification of the property, P6SE1A-25-2024, 24 West 4th Street. I'll turn it over to you first before we turn it over to the vendors.
Thank you. I'll make a few comments. This is a property that's immediately adjacent to an existing CRIZ. This has been a long plan project that we've seen already seek and obtain city approvals, including a certificate of appropriateness. It's in the land development stages now. The mayor is in support of the certification of this incredibly small parcel. You can see that it's 0.05 acres adjacent to the existing CRIZ parcel. We have that property in the banked allotment, and I have to be honest, I should have brought our total banked amount here, and so if you ask me, I will have to get that to you later. But it's a good project on a property that's been blighted for a long time. When it was purchased by the applicant, the property was, while not officially blighted, but was in a state of disrepair, which is why HCC supported the application for demolition and the new building on the property. And so I wanted to make sure that you all knew that we had advertise this appropriately as required by the Commonwealth 14 days in advance. Those costs are being covered by the applicant, but that this is something that the city administration, the mayor in particular, is supportive of the authority supporting. So I'll turn it over to you guys if there's anything you want to add about the project. I've seen it, but they probably haven't seen it. If you want to go to the microphone so Mark can hear you.
Thank you.
So what Brandon is passing out is a packet for a 6-story building on this corner. It consists of 25 apartment units and 4,700 square feet of retail space. Initially, the building was slated to be 9 stories. We decided to bring the building down to 6 stories. We believe that the ongoing CRIZ increment would be roughly $150,000 a year plus a one-time CRIZ benefit of right around $500,000.
Associated with construction.
Yes, construction, yes.
Do you guys have anything else to add? I'll see if these guys have any questions. I don't know if you want to.
Let me just say one thing. So this is the property transfer. At the point of financing, they'll come back for approval of the financing aspect, depending on what that looks like. I don't know if that's been fully vetted and decided as of this point, but this will not be the last time you see the project. So I just wanted to make sure you all had clarity that this was, the step involved just the property transfer, and then the application will be a subsequent approval of the authority.
John, Donna, do you guys have any questions?
Just a quick question, like on this map in, I'm going to call it purple, it says site. Is that the total of the 0.0 acreage, or it's just the pictures that you forwarded of that building?
It's the total.
That's the total.
Yeah, that's inclusive of the 0.05.
Okay.
That I'm not real I wasn't on the board before when we talked about this, so
Mhm.
I was trying to understand it too.
This was this this is when the 3 of the lots were in the original application. The project
Actually-
was in the original application.
So
was it
if you're familiar with 4th Street, and the notable landmark is the Goose,
Yep.
which will be on the western side across Vine Street, and
Yep.
Roasted on the eastern side is in the adjoining property, or Blue Sky, depending on how you remember it. And so the corner was always in the CRIZ. It's part of our original application. That was 0.08 acres approximately. And so when the adjoining property became available or was approached to be incorporated in the project, that's where the 0.05 acres comes in. And so it's just an expansion of a project that was already a property already identified in our CRIZ application. So we hadn't seen this separately as an authority. So this is not a project that we took and looked at in 2015, or,
Okay.
you're not missing anything from that perspective. It's gone through city process. It just hasn't gone through, this body.
So for me visually, this takes everything kind of from Roasted to the corner and
Yes.
puts it in Chris? Okay, thank you. In? Right. Okay, thank you.
Alicia, what is our total CRIZ acreage or percent?
129.1.
Okay, so it's still really tiny. Okay.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
an incredibly small sliver of the overall acres. Now, most of the 129.151 is committed. There's maybe an acre somewhere thereabouts, and that includes the portion committed to Hotel Bethlehem,
Okay.
and the 25 plus acres banked by Majestic that we agreed to remain kind of within their control when they identified a new project. So we have technically much more bank property. We just have it reserved for other projects.
Sure.
I guess additionally, we also just like to add, we feel like this is a very efficient use of CRIZ, being such a small infill project and having such a big impact in South Bethlehem. We feel that, such a small amount of acreage to create this, once it's done, it's going to create a new landmark in South Bethlehem. So we feel that this is a very efficient use and a smart use for the CRIZ.
And the reuse is retail on the bottom floor and then apartments
Correct.
up above it? And 6 stories, how many apartments?
25.
25,
The first story will likely be a restaurant use.
okay.
And we have several well-known restaurants who are interested in this property.
So the current plan is to have the first floor just one retail.
Correct.
Okay.
The retail may actually creep into the basement depending on what the program will be for the restaurant. But right now, the ground level is 4,700 square feet.
Mark, I know you're up there somewhere. I don't know if you have any questions.
I'm here. A couple questions. Do we have to reallocate any other designated CRIZ land to do this, Alicia?
We do not, Mark. We have what the state considers banked properties from other decertifications that weren't fully assigned, and some parking
Okay.
authority land. So we are able to pull this out of the banked acreage.
Okay. And the second question is, where is this project in the approval process?
So it's already received a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of both the structures, because there's 2 separate structures on 2 separate parcels. The project's been submitted so it's been approved from the city's standpoint regarding mass and size. As they've indicated, they're going to come down in size, and they will likely go back to HCC for design elements and some of the details. It's inland development. We have not issued permits for the project, so it's under review in planning and zoning.
And then from the developer standpoint, what's the timing? What is your timing on the project?
I would say first quarter of next year.
Okay. That's all the questions I had.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark.
One quick question. So first quarter, you're gonna start the construction if you can? And then how long do you think it's gonna take to complete the project?
Realistically, 18, 19 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, assume the apartment people will park in the garage, in the new garage there on New Street. Is that historically kind of what's been going on there since that has been built, or?
That, and we've seen a lot of the people that are running in the downtown areas actually not having cars.
Okay.
And it's really not been as much of an issue as it was probably 10 years ago even.
Okay.
So that's what we've been seeing.
Okay, great. Anybody have any other questions?
So what is in your packet is the application that we submit to the state for approval of the certification of the property. I don't know, Ed, we didn't really talk about resolution because it's not required as part of that process, but is it simple motion to?
Simple motion to approve the
Application?
the transfer worksheet being submitted.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thanks, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you
Look
a
forward to
lot.
seeing you first quarter next year. All right, moving on. The next order of business, new business, is the fee schedule. Alicia, I will turn that over to you and your team. I know you guys worked pretty hard on it.
So if you recall, even back in April, I think we had this listed as an agenda item and just weren't prepared to go through it in detail. Since that time, we've done research as to what other authorities use for fee schedules, both CRIZ and non-CRIZ authorities. Guess I should take a step back. Really, we wanted to look at this because the fee schedule adopted by this body goes back to the beginning of the program prior to the allowance of an administrative increment being taken from the CRIZ. So from the get-go, we couldn't pull any funds to pay any bills except our auditing fee. That was changed probably 2015, maybe 2016. There have been a couple of changes. So, which allows us to take 5% off of the top of the increment for administrative support. Now, there's also the allowance to take fees off for professional services as well. We generally negotiate with individual projects for, at minimum that 5%, but then also like what else are we going to take money for in other projects or, to pay some of those other bills. So we knew it was time to go back and look at particularly the large $15,000 application fee that was really geared towards supporting the authority prior to any increment being able to be used. So what was sent out is really just a document that's abbreviated from our guidelines. And so what I'm hoping to do is just go through what is somewhat of a new process and new fees with you folks. We did provide this to a small committee of both Joe Kelly and Donna Taggart, who were able to review these in advance of today's meeting. I think we started talking back in July. And I don't want to speak for them, but we'll go through their degree of support for where we're at. And so if you recall from our guidance, we have a qualification stage, an application stage, a review and approval stage, and a closing and funding stage. And so we're keeping those. Qualification is for projects that are not listed in the original application that this authority has yet to approve, right? So somebody's got an idea, they've got a dream, they want to do a CRIZ project. And so they provide us with information and they come before you. And so we've added a fee, which is new, of $500, essentially just for your review and listening to the project and deciding whether or not you think this would be a good CRIZ project for the city. Sometimes these projects include the need to, hold on one second, transfer a parcel. And so you'll see the note section includes, just like we saw today, adding CRIZ parcel to the project. We've charged no fees except the getting the applicant to pay for our fees associated with advertising. So that's usually about $120 or somewhere in that ballpark. And so we'll pay and they'll reimburse us. But what we've done is, or what we're doing is proposing a $2,500 fee because there's some work. You've seen the application that's included as part of your packet today. There's conversations, there's an information exchange, and then an appearance, and then we would cover the cost of the advertising fee out of that $2,500. So instead of billing them separately, we'll combine it into one fee. And there's an application stage. Now, if you recall, and for those of you who are newer to the authority, there was an application submitted in November of 2013 that has a number of projects associated with it. Those are already considered approved by the Commonwealth. But a lot of the, but not all of the projects are in there. Even if the land was in there, doesn't mean the project was fully vetted by the Commonwealth. So if the project was not in that original application with the pro formas, with the financial information, and or it has significantly changed from that time, we are suggesting a $10,000 fee, which is a reduction of $5,000. The amount of back and forth with the applicant is significant. The information we have to provide to the Commonwealth is significant. There's a lot of financial information. And so just to get to you folks to say, okay, knowing that we'll automatically send it to the state, we believe is justified at a $10,000 level. A lot of times, or what we've seen in projects recently, is either the project has changed substantially or it gets denied. And so what we're talking about under the review and approval stage is all denied applications will need to be resubmitted to the authority. And if you deny it, or if it's not a good project, and I can't even fathom a circumstance in where a denial happens and they got to come back to us. We're suggesting a $5,000 fee just because the degree of education and information will probably be less depending on the way that changes. But we want to encourage people to submit their best and final project to us and not go through a process, not demand an appearance before the authority and have to, trigger that. And then in the closing and funding stage, we have no fees that are outside of the last page. So I'm going to skip you ahead to our annual maintenance fee, which is what our projects pay, our issuance fee, and our project financing fee. And so the project financing fee is as you see, it's noted as 25% less than what we're charging today. And again, our need to generate revenue is decreased a little bit by our ability to collect increment. We did get into a little bit of conversation with recent applicants about issuance, meaning we're borrowing, we're a conduit borrower versus financing the project. And so there might be a little more work in an issuance circumstance versus us. Well, there's definitely more work if we're reviewing documents and then if we're one of our projects we granted the funds to. So we entered into a simple grant agreement. There was nowhere near the amount of review or documentation. And so we believe we were justified in bringing the financing fee down by 25%. So I'll take you back to the middle page. We did add a section on other grant projects. While that wasn't contemplated, I think, when we originally did this, we are seeing the ISRP, which you entertained at the last meeting, and suggesting that they deserve a $2,500 application fee and a 1% admin fee. That's low, as some of you may know, but we also believe as city staff, we're using the authority as a vehicle to get these projects done. And honestly, we're not just exclusively acting as authority staff, we're acting in the best interest of the city as well. So it's usually not just one funding source that's going into this project through this authority. So there's multiple ways that we're being compensated for the projects. So I realize that was a very quick overview of our fee schedule. And the goal is to get you to entertain this, and then we'll incorporate it into the program guidelines just as a matter of, without giving you the entire program guideline packet. Have any questions for me?
I have one, and it's going to be a dumb question, but I didn't understand it. On stage 2, the application stage,
Yes.
the first sentence says it receives parcel designation. What does that exactly mean?
So parcel is the actual parcel it sits on.
Okay.
So sometimes, like, we have a whole 129 acres is, in this application of designated parcels, but the actual project wasn't named
Okay.
in here. So I know it's difficult. Like there was a highlight of probably, I don't know, 10, 12 projects,
I think so.
but there were many more parcels than 10 or 12 parcels.
Oh.
So the state only reviewed those marquee projects, I would say.
Okay.
I won't name any that have gone by the wayside, but there were some that were, well, Martin Tower was the reuse of the tower.
Yeah.
And so some of those were the ones that we were hoping carried the day in 2013 to get the designation. But a project like you just heard about was a much smaller project, didn't necessarily have deserve the space in the, print magazine, to be highlighted as one of the reasons why they should approve the CRIS. So all these parcels are approved. Not every project is approved in this app.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. long answer, sorry.
No. I read that 3 different times. I said, I don't know what they mean by that.
Okay.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mark, do you have any questions?
Mark in the schedule.
I do not.
Anything else, Alicia?
No, I think the only other thing that's outstanding that we may come back to you on fees is the legal fees. You know, we've talked with that a couple of times. Ed, you know, I don't want to speak for you, but always takes the attitude he works for the authority and
I serve at the pleasure of the board. And when we submitted your response to the request for proposals, what we proposed was that our fees would be covered by developers and that we would not charge you anything except for litigation that's not covered by insurance. We don't charge the authority directly for any fees, and that the developers, applicants pay for all of our fees. So the fee schedule that you set, we were certainly comfortable with it, and we're not opposed to, we understand your desire to revisit and make it appropriate. And I could tell you that with regard to the Wilbur Mansion, it's not solicitor's report, but if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
no, go ahead.
I did reduce my fees. The applicant had some concern about the size of the fee. And then I, out of a professional courtesy, I reduced my fees a percentage. I don't recall the percentage, to make it what I thought was still an appropriate fee, consistent with your guidelines, but consistent with the nature of the project and the amount of the work involved.
Yeah, and just the Wilbur Mansion project in and of itself is a perfect example of one of those ones that came to us, what, 4 different times?
Yeah,
3
that
or
was
4
the-
different times.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I understand the project change was reiterated and all those things, but that was one where we went back to the state a couple times. if
yeah,
I
that
remember
one, that
correctly.
was applied to the Commonwealth more than once.
Yeah, so,
They had paid fees to prior counsel. So I
Right.
took that into fact that
Yeah.
they had already paid legal fees to the previous solicitor. So
Yeah.
I reduced my fee appropriately.
So that may be the only thing that we bring back, but I
Yeah.
think at least for the next, through 2022, I think we should give these fees a run, and then they can always be revisited if we find we're missing something, or
Yeah.
we're getting complaints. Well, we'll always get complaints, but
yes, we will.
reasonable complaints.
But,
They're not, from my perspective, they're not out of line with what other authorities do. Well, you're a unique authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it's.
Yep.
You're different fruit, but you're still in the same
Yeah.
farm.
gotcha.
And staff researched that,
Yeah, no, they did a nice job.
Up with this.
Yeah.
So,
Chris did it. I had a couple conversations with Chris, so I know you guys worked hard, and
Yep.
we appreciate it,
Yep.
obviously, very much. But if there are no other questions, I'll accept the motion to adopt the fees as laid out by Alicia in the proposed 2021 Bria project and financing fee document.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Solicitor's report, do you have anything else to add, Ed?
Nothing further.
Alicia?
I have a couple things.
Go
If you recall, boy, I can't remember what meeting, but the application has been finalized for the Wind Creek Hotel project, and that was
Great.
just signed off on by them this week. So that'll be submitted tomorrow at this point. And so we'll hope to get approval from the Commonwealth for that. We did get the approval of the property transfer, which, is
Right.
always the first step. They needed a little time to do some subdivision work and other things, but that's all ready to go. So I would expect that we'll be talking about financing next. We will not be financing the whole project, just a component of it. And so I know they're trying to do that before the end of the year. So I wanted to make sure we're putting that all on everybody's radar. I think it's a little aggressive, but at the very least, they want to see if they can get it under agreement for an increment purposes before the end of the year, even if the financing doesn't happen. So, well, Ed and I haven't talked specifically about that. I expect we'll have to come back to this group to tackle that. The ISRP, which was presented at the last meeting, application has been completed, and so we'll get that submitted and hope that we can get some funding for the SGO East Annex project for the remediation of that building. Other than that, I have no other project or authority updates.
Okay, the next meeting date is scheduled for October 7th. If no one else has any other business before the board, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Joe, I had just
Oh,
one quick question.
go ahead,
with
Sorry.
the current project. So Alicia, do you get involved with monitoring any of those like the Wilbur Mansion while it's undergoing construction?
So
They
the
were-
city monitors the construction aspect, of course, through
Right,
permitting and
right.
inspections and so forth. The authority does not. We put the responsibility on the applicant to ensure compliance with the guidelines. And so I do not go out and look at prevailing wage or any of the details around labor compliance. And then certainly we're working with them to ensure their contractors comply, as well as any tenants in the building once it's complete.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mark?
That's it.
All right. All right, with that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Anybody opposed to adjourning? All right, we're good. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
All right.
Creepy. Sound like talking to God when
And
you
now it
can't.
is, with the light and then all comes in.
It's
I really looked at that.
really,
before.
it's really, the voice of God comes